you should. Jefferson City YMCA.
Hi, welcome to Helping You Live Better with the YMCA. I'm your host, Shelly Poire. Today we have two guests with us. Our first is Nick Baker. He's a AFAA certified personal trainer at the YMCA. And then also on the second portion of the show, Lindsey Koelling. She's a registered and licensed dietitian at Hy-Vee. So let's start off with Nick. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Today we'll talk a little bit about healthy lifestyle habits with you.
Absolutely.
So what is the most common challenge you see today?
Well, the most common challenge that I see, I mean, there's a variety of answers to that, but the most one that I really see is there's a lot of struggle with the lifestyle as far as the balance. There's a lot of things going on. Each family has their own schedules, but most time I really see a struggle with the nutrition. Whenever you talk about nutrition, there's so much to it. There's so much involved. There's so many choices. Obviously, when you go to a grocery store, the experience is overwhelming at times. So most families try to get in and get out pretty quickly. But what I really see the problem is they're just, they're having problems with what to eat and how much they're eating.
Okay. So what's the best advice you can give our viewers about their eating habits and eating healthy?
Well, the most important thing that I think is important to a family, as far as if you're trying to achieve better health, you want to just focus on your portion control. A lot of times families are really rushed, so we basically order what's on the menu, we eat it because we're supposed to, we eat all of it. So a lot of times families are really just encouraging their kids to eat, and they're just trying to catch a meal themselves. So what I would recommend is try to find a little more structure, a little more balance, and structure out 6 meals a day. Make those meals a lot smaller but more frequently, so that you give yourself a better opportunity to stay fueled all day long, because there's a lot of things that require a lot of energy. Work alone requires a lot of energy, and at times whenever you go throughout the day and you skip breakfast and you go right into maybe a lunch that's maybe too much, and then you wait another 4 to 6 hours and you have a late dinner, it's just kind of a vicious cycle that we're trying to overcome, and it's almost impossible to achieve those results that you're really wanting to achieve. So it's important. You got to focus on small, frequent portions throughout the day, and you want to just make healthier choices as much as you can.
Okay. So why do some people struggle with overeating?
Well, it's something that's been passed on from generation to generation. I think as we grow up in our families, the buffets, you get a great value, you want to eat as much as possible. And, I found myself in that experience last week, and it was very tempting to go back, for another plate. But you have to find yourself and ask yourself, what's really important to me? Is eating this meal the most important thing? Is eating this much food going to improve my health, or is it going to make it worse? So you just have to ask yourself that question every time you prepare a meal. Do I really need this much food? What activity is going to follow this that's going to require this much food? Because if you ask yourself 9 times out of 10, the amount of food you're getting ready to eat is way more than the activity that you're getting ready to perform. Now, if you're an athlete, it's a different story. But just everyday living, if you just can really narrow down, get that smaller portion, and be satisfied, because you have to realize you're going to get to eat in another 2 hours. Versus, going all day. Yeah, of course you're going to eat as much as possible, because your body doesn't know when it's going to eat again. So you have to set it up properly. Each 2 hours, find something to eat.
Something to eat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shouldn't sit at the buffet for 2 hours.
No, it was so tempting. I wanted to go back and eat more pizza, but I had 1 slice of pizza. And then I waited 2 hours and I had another slice of pizza.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
It's discipline. It's the only thing that works.
So what are some strategies that you use to plan for your week and your meals?
Well, just like you said, it's a strategy. I'm not doing something that I'm making this up. This is just, I'm modeling after something that's achieved results. If you go onto any network and read testimonials, this is the model that they use. This is the small, frequent meals. And they have to know, just like when I was working with clients this morning, I always ask them, what's your plan for the day? And if they say, I don't know, there's a good chance that they're not going to succeed, and they're just going to wing it. So you have to have a strategy, meaning the night before, you have to ask yourself that question, what am I planning on eating tomorrow? am I going to be in the right position to make a good choice? If you have meetings at work, if you're traveling with your job, or if you're just running kids to activity, you have to strategize and say, all right, I'm going to prepare some meals, some snacks for myself and for my kids, because the kids are just as vulnerable as you are, because they're just modeling after your habits. So if you take control and ask yourself, okay, what are we going to eat today? And prepare it. Take not even an hour to prepare the meal, and get it portioned out properly. And that way they're like, oh yeah, we have something to eat. We have a good, healthy choice versus, what looks good. If what looks good is your choice all the time, you're going to find one, because there's places everywhere to eat. It's a big industry.
When you say prepare it and portion it out, can you explain that
Sure.
a little bit?
Well, you want to realize that your body only needs 200 to 300 calories per serving. It just depends on, and everyone's a little bit different, everyone's built differently, everyone's got more muscle or less muscle, but what you want to focus on is just the small, frequent meals. No one really needs to consume 1,000 calories at a time, per meal, because it's just not efficient. We're actually wasting money. We don't waste gas, do we? We try to conserve it, right? So just like food is fuel, you have to conserve your food throughout the day. Just like if you were given this much food at the beginning of the day and say, you have to ration this out all day long, and this is all you get. I think we would prepare a little bit differently. So
Okay.
I use a lot of containers, the small containers or the smaller bowls. Like if I do a bowl of cereal, I use a small bowl, like I'm feeding my son. It's a small bowl. I use the same portion that I would feed him versus the big heaping bowl that you can fit about half the cereal box in there, right? You have to read the label on the cereal. What does it say? A serving is 3/4 of a cup. That's not a lot.
Yeah, that's a real bummer.
It is. Absolutely.
Okay. So what about selection when you're selecting your food?
Well, the selection is most important. Let me back up. The portion control is priority right now. And then as you get more comfortable with your meal selection, and getting that structure, that 6 meals, you can start finding healthier choices. And there's so many applications that you can use on your phone and say, there's a book that's eat this, not that. You just have to use strategy as far as, all right, I'm eating this now, and just ask yourself a simple question. Is there something that I could eat that's a better choice? If I'm eating something that's a little more processed, can I replace it with some fruit or some mixed nuts or something that's just more, that has more energy in it? Because you have to realize everyone throughout the day wants more energy. We want to stop supplementing our energy lack with coffee. Coffee's, good for you in moderation, but it shouldn't be what keeps us going throughout the day. If you're being productive, not, don't say thank you Starbucks or, whatever coffee you choose, but you want it to be because of the food and size of portion that you eat, because that's, your body will produce that energy naturally as long as you're getting some good sleep.
Right. Can you give us an idea of maybe just what you would have for your small frequent meals during the day?
Okay. Well, I would start early. I'm an early riser because I have lots of clients that get up. But what I would do is I usually do a small bowl of oatmeal, and I usually do some honey and some cinnamon, maybe throw slices of apples in there. That's a good complex carb that I can really get some energy from. And then my next meal is going to be maybe some Greek yogurt. I like Greek yogurt because it's got protein, it's got all that good stuff. And then obviously you're hydrating in between there because you want to get plenty of water throughout the day. And then I've already got a kind of idea of what I'm going to eat for lunch. So it's a small portion of usually some kind of rice and some kind of meat product like chicken or something like that. But the portion size is small because I know in my mind I'm going to eat again shortly. So I don't have to really try to eat as much as I can, So it's really that strategy, Mixed nuts are great for you. And just, again, using those little small meal replacements are really good for you.
So even your dinner would be a small meal similar to your third meal, your lunch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And my strategy is I try to eat more of my calories earlier in the day so that I have a better opportunity to burn them through just regular activity, through work, and just, getting through the day. And then when towards the evening, you have to realize that, all right, I don't have a lot of activity planned. The weather's nicer, so you can maybe get out and do some more activity. So you have to strategize that way. If I plan on getting a nice walk in, you can have a few more calories, but I would recommend still a nice, healthy green salad, with some type of meat product or some beans or something like that. And again, keeping that portion size small so that A, when you finish the day, you're ahead of the game versus back to square one.
Okay, so I've been good. I've been eating my small meals, portion size. What about cheat days? Is there any allowance for, maybe treating myself?
Well, I always use the rule, the 80-20 rule, which is nice because once you set some small goals for yourself and you achieve those goals, once you get some momentum, I wouldn't cheat too often in the beginning stages, just so that you can start getting some momentum, start getting some results. And then as you're eating 80% of the time healthy, once you get in that habit, give yourself, a cheat meal. Not a cheat day, I would say a cheat meal. But you can also, as long as the portion size is small enough, you can have, really whatever you want. As long as your calorie count's low, you have to eat much smaller bites of cake if you're planning to use that as a cheat meal or a cheat snack or something like that. But you can have some ice cream. It's not going to hurt you. But you just need to make sure that your portions are small enough and that you can be satisfied. And just realize what it is. Food is fuel, and there's some pleasure there too, right?
So it's important to follow the serving sizes.
Absolutely.
On the packages.
Well, absolutely, and your own personal goals too. If you're working with a trainer, they've maybe set up some kind of guidelines, or if you have a resource that's saying, hey, this is my suggestion for you, follow that to the best of their ability, because most, me and your body types are going to be different. So we just have to adjust accordingly. They're setting those standards for the entire population. So, but it's based on, a certain requirement. So, but I think we'll have a little more information a little bit later in the show.
So if I say I've started working out regularly, I hadn't been, I started working out pretty regularly, how can I, so I'm maybe hungrier, I'm burning more calories, can I increase?
Absolutely.
And what's the best way to do that?
You want to adjust accordingly. If you weren't working out at all, you would have to, the way you would achieve your results is through proper nutrition. But you add a great something to the equation, like working out and strength training, you have a whole different spectrum. So now your body's going to be using a lot more calories throughout the day. Your metabolism is going to get, spiked from those workouts. So you do have to supplement accordingly. You have to make sure that you have some energy in the beginning before you train, and then you have to make sure you supplement afterwards too. Because just like a gas tank, once you use all the fuel, you have to refill it back up if you want to keep going efficiently.
Tell us a little bit about the importance of water with our diet.
Well, water is one of the most important aspects of life. When it comes to, you can't live without it. That's the only thing we can't live without. But if you would just do some research, most people, a lot of my clients, I ask them, all right, are you drinking plenty of water? Well, I don't like it. Well, I'm sorry. That's something you're just going to have to get used to, because if you don't consume water, you can get it in different sources, but, just breaking it down into water and just realizing all the benefits. It's so beneficial for especially trying to crave, hunger cravings. If your body is dehydrated, you're going to have some other things that are going to be happening. Dehydration for a workout is horrible. So I would recommend all viewers to go to our lovely internet and just say in your search engine the benefits of drinking water, and just read it over and over, and read it to your kids. Make sure that they're aware of the reason they choose water over soda whenever they have the option. So I've somehow got my daughter to realize that water is something amazing for her, and she starts to avoid those things. And it's really cool to see that as she sees me choosing water over soda, she does the same thing. So it's all about modeling. So you model a good habit, and then hopefully your kids will follow.
You hope.
You hope.
So what about your clients who say, I don't like water? Are there other options or any flavoring things they can do?
They can. You always want to just be cautious with what you're adding to your water. But again, you can have tea. You can have all types of green teas. You can use some of the things that's on the market, the Mios and stuff like that. Just make sure you're avoiding excess calories and sugars, and you want to make sure and see what the ingredients are. Because if it's sweet, there's a reason it's sweet. I like to do some lemon in my water, or throw little touches of honey in there just to make it sweet. But there's different things you can do. But just make sure you're not consuming your calories by drinking them. You would rather consume them by food. So very important.
So tea is okay. Should it be decaffeinated, or can it have?
It's going to be personal preference.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Depends on, you know, how you respond to those types of things. So,
Okay.
but I enjoy a green tea with maybe some lemon and some honey as my sweetener, and I do pretty well. So.
Okay, sounds good. So let's talk some more about the small frequent meals. You said you start early, so can you give us an idea maybe of the time, like 6 o'clock, 8? You know?
Yeah, it's about 2 hours, and you have to realize if, for example, if you do get a bigger breakfast, like the very first one, you say you got up plenty of time, you made all these great options, and you consume a few more calories. You know, you can extend that period of time, but not much. You want to make sure maybe choose a little less quantity that next meal, just so that you still stay on track. Because at the end of the day, if someone said, hey, you need to count your calories, you need to make sure you're still within your requirement. And you'll know if you're overeating because you'll respond, your body responds accordingly.
Exactly.
And it's all about consistency. As long as you're getting those frequencies in consistently, your body will do what it's called to do.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Nick.
Appreciate
It was a pleasure to have you. That wraps up our first segment. We'll take a break, and then we'll be back with Lindsey Koelling, the registered and licensed dietitian from Hy-Vee.
Feel good like you should. Jefferson City YMCA.
In America, you are not required to offer food to the hungry or shelter to the homeless. There is no ordinance forcing you to visit the lonely or comfort the infirm. In fact, nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have to provide anything for anybody. Thank you for all you've given. Imagine what more could do.
Feel good like you should. Jefferson City YMCA.
Hi, welcome back to Helping You Live Better with the YMCA. I'm your host, Shelly Poire, and my guest for the second segment is Lindsey Koelling. Lindsey is a registered and licensed dietitian at Hy-Vee. Thank you for joining us, Lindsey.
Thank you for having me.
Just a couple questions. We're going to talk a little bit about strategies for healthy eating. Where do you look for healthier options at the grocery store?
There are so many options within the grocery store that it can kind of be a challenge for some people to really decide where to start. So one of the things I like to tell people is to start at the perimeter. You're going to get your fresh fruits and vegetables, your fresh meats, your dairy groups. And then at Hy-Vee, we have the health market on one edge of the perimeter of the store, which can be a great place for someone who has a food allergy. So by starting in the perimeter, you get a lot less calories, a lot less processed stuff like your fats and your sugars added to things. So it's a great place to start.
So do you recommend like doing your first part of your shopping, just going around the perimeter?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That way you can fill your cart mostly with those great options that are less processed. Because as we start to fill up our cart, we start to calculate in our head what the cost is going to be. So if we start with those less processed fruits and vegetables, getting lots of good colors in there, our fresh lean meats like our sirloin or our rounds, and our low-fat dairies, then we're filling our carts with those rather than the more processed foods.
Okay. What should a person do? How should they prepare a plan before they go shopping?
That can be a great strategy to help with healthier eating, is to even plan before you leave your house. I'm sure everyone's done it where they get to the grocery store, they have their recipe in front of them, and they're like, oh my goodness, do I have this ingredient at home? And then you end up with 5 of the exact same thing at home where maybe you didn't need that. Also helps you maybe take your recipe from being less healthy to healthier. So you switch a whole milk with a skim milk. Or instead of using sour cream, you use a Greek yogurt. Or instead of using a high-fat meat, you choose a lower-fat or lean meat. So it can help you to make strategies, healthier recipes as well.
Okay. How do you get the family involved? Is that a good idea? Or
Oh, absolutely. The more you can get your family involved, the better, especially your kids. Get them to help pick out some of their favorite foods and then have them help to make it a little bit healthier. So while you're grocery shopping, if their favorite food is macaroni and cheese, okay, that's a common one for kids. Yeah. They really like that. So maybe when you're making your macaroni and cheese, you make it from scratch and you use whole wheat noodles.
Okay.
And you use skim milk instead of whole milk. And you use a 2% Velveeta rather than the full fat one. Okay. Or you even just get a cheddar cheese and use a 2% cheddar cheese and use less of it. Okay. Also having them help to maybe pick a new fruit or vegetable. Okay. Each time you go shopping can be a good idea. I know sometimes it's hard to get kids to try those new fruits and vegetables. So having them have the option of, this is your choice for this week. So what would you like? And I know there's a lot of options and sometimes that can overwhelm kids. So maybe trying to pick out 3 or 4 items for them to choose from and then have them choose from those 4 to take home.
Narrow it down a little bit for them. Okay, good idea. What about, colors when you're picking out your food? Because should we get a variety?
Yep, the more colors, the better. Each food group, the different colors have different nutrients in them that are good for us. So a lot of times we hear carrots are good for our eyes, milk is good for our bones. So the different colors do different processes in our bodies. And fruits and vegetables are full of antioxidants, which can help repair damage that's done to different parts of our bodies. So the more fruits and vegetables we can get in, the more antioxidants we're getting in. So those are great ones to include.
So that's the perimeter of the store. Yep. So now we're going into the center aisles with the processed food. So what strategies should we use there?
There's so many products within the center aisles. It can get overwhelming very, very quickly. So one of the best things someone can do is label reading, which can be very hard because the label, there's a lot of information on it. So one of the best places to start is the serving size. Because like Nick talked about with the cereal, 3/4 of a cup is a serving size. Sometimes we don't recognize how small those servings truly are. So if we're eating double what the serving is, we need to double everything on that nutrition list. Right. So that can really increase the sugar, the fats, the salts, or it can increase the good things for us like fiber and protein.
Okay. So what do the percentages on the side of the label mean?
That's a great question. Those a lot of times can confuse people. They're a percentage of what we need for our day. So it might say 5% on there. So that would be 5% of our daily needs for a 2,000 calorie diet. Okay. Now, not everyone follows a 2,000 calorie diet. Sometimes someone might only need 1,500 calories. So we have to take that into account on that percentage. Okay. Now, just a general guideline I like to tell people is 5% or less is considered low. 20% or more is considered high. So that can give you a good range. So if your fat percentage is a 15, that's a little bit higher. Okay. Or if it's a 5%, that might be a better option for that processed food.
Okay. So the percentages of your daily requirement? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
For what you need for a full day.
So how many grams equal 1 teaspoon?
So when you're looking at things like sugar and fat, we want to actually change them into something that we recognize because we don't use grams a whole lot. They don't really mean a whole lot to us. So if you take your grams and divide it by 4, that gives you teaspoons. Okay. So if we had 12 grams of sugar in a product that we're eating, divide it by 4, that gives us 3 teaspoons. Wow. So think of the little sugar packets that we see on the tables and things. That would be a teaspoon.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the NuVal system that Hy-Vee has. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, NuVal can be a great place for people to start. It takes away the need to maybe label read as much. Now, definitely don't want to get away from label reading, but it can make a lot quicker choices for people. The cereal aisle is one place where I really like to tell people to look at this because it's a huge section. There are so many options. But it's a scoring system of 1 to 100. So like a grade in school, we really want those 100s because that means they're a little bit better for us. Now, the only way that number can change is if the recipe for that product changes. So if things like sugar, salt, fat increase, the number is going to go down. Okay. So you might see those as 1s or 2s. But if it's higher in our vitamins and minerals, fiber, protein, that's going to increase our score. So that's going to make it a little bit better for us.
Okay. Okay. So give me an example of some items that would have a high NuVal score?
High NuVal score, you definitely want to look at the products as food groups.
Okay.
Because of course your fruits and vegetables are going to be higher than cereals, and then fruits and vegetables are going to be your 90s to 100s.
Okay.
So those are, again, we talked about the perimeter of the store, that's where you're going to find some of your higher NuVal scores. If you're looking at food groups like the cereals, look for the higher numbers within those food groups. So at cereals, you're looking average probably in the 20 to 30s. There is a 91 though, your shredded wheat that's not sugared.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, but it just doesn't taste that good without the sugar.
But that's a great point.
Yeah.
You could take one that is a sweetened one and mix it with the unsweetened.
Okay.
So you're getting kind of a median score
Right.
rather than the 91 or the 20.
Okay, and it tastes
a little
better.
better, yeah.
So, okay. So what, tell me again, what increases the NuVal score?
Things like vitamins, minerals, fiber, some
Okay.
of your protein will help to increase and make that number a little bit higher for us.
Okay. And then what decreases it?
Things like fat, sugar, salt, those things we want to avoid as much of. So
Okay.
those will definitely lower the score very quickly.
Okay, so let's go back. We talked about macaroni and cheese earlier. The store-bought, the box, what kind of NuVal score would that?
You're looking pretty low.
Pretty low.
Probably around 10, if even that high.
Okay, now, and I don't know if you can know this, but say you made it with the whole wheat pasta and the skim milk. What would that do to the NuVal score?
Some of your whole wheat pastas are close to 100.
Really?
So you're starting out a lot higher than you would with your boxed ones. Not every product within the store has been scored. There's
Right,
just so many
right,
that
yeah.
the company, that the NuVal system hasn't gotten to all of them. But finding those higher ones, if you're going to go from a full fat cheese to a 2% cheese, your NuVal score is going to go higher.
Right,
So
okay.
that would help the score as
Okay.
well.
Do other stores use the NuVal scoring system, or?
Hy-Vee is one of the only ones in the Midwest
Okay.
that has the scoring system, which is great for our customers.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to find the score next to the price on the bar.
Okay. So those are, healthier options as we're shopping, but what are some things to avoid, like when we're, I guess, anywhere in the store, what should we not be putting into the cart?
That really varies from person to person, depending on whether they have heart disease, an allergy, things like that. But really reading the label and looking to see, does it have a lot of sugar? Does it have a lot of fat? Sometimes when we switch from the original versions to a fat-free version or a sugar-free version, we don't always, that's not always the best option, because a lot of times fat, sugar, and salt are used to preserve things. So when we take one of those away, it increases one of the others. So you might see a fat-free item that has a lot more salt in it, or a sugar-free item that has a lot more fat in it, because it needs something to preserve it. So sometimes a light version is the best in between of those two.
Okay, so probably not the best example, but like Cool Whip, there's always the fat-free, and then there's the light, so maybe the light version instead.
Dressings are another big
Okay,
area
sure.
for that. You can go to the light, and you still have the good flavor that you're looking for, but the fat and the salt don't change as much. You get a better median between the two.
Great information. What about, going shopping when you're hungry? Probably not a good idea.
Oh, no. It happens a lot, though. We're in a hurry. We need to get to the grocery store. But the less you can go shopping while you're hungry, the better, because everything looks good when
Right.
you're in the grocery store and you're hungry. So definitely trying to get a snack before you go. Or maybe it's whenever you're walking through the produce section, you pick up an apple, eat it as you're going through, and then pay for it either before or after.
Okay, that's okay to,
Yeah,
to do
you
that?
can pay it before and then just munch on it as you're going through.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's just been some very helpful and useful information. We appreciate you joining us
Thank
today.
you for having me.
That's our show for today. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Helping You Live Better with the YMCA.
Feel good like you should. Jefferson City